Hello, Malaysians. Welcome back to Professor Dr. Tajuddin's YouTube channel. My name is Razsyarizzand Rindu. I'm a postgraduate student at University Malaysia Sabah. Today, I have been invited for the third time to interview Professor Dr. Tajuddin. First of all, thank you so much for welcoming me back again to your YouTube channel, Professor Dr. Tajuddin.
Well, thank you for agreeing to do this. I think it's a wonderful thing that you are having to have a different kind of a career opportunity, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm.
So today we are going to talk about, it's a special edition, I would like to think. Today we're going to talk about Sabah post-election results. So let's begin with the most obvious one. So Professor Tajuddin, in the recent state election of Sabah, we have seen the dominance of local parties. There were over 70 seats that were contested, and 65 of them were won by local parties. And what might be surprising to some, not in particular those who are in Sabah, is the fact that most Chinese voters whose loyalty was evident to DAP have now shifted allegiance to the Warisan Party. And other Malayan-based parties such as Pakatan Harapan, Perikatan Nasional, and also Barisan Nasional had experienced a significant defeat. So, from a non-Sabahan perspective, what is your interpretation of the recent state election in Sabah? What do you think is going on? What is the core message that the federal government and all other Malayan-based parties should take away from this?
Okay, thank you for the question. And I'm going to be very academic here by first of all declaring academically that I'm don't really know much about Sabah politics. Okay, like Professor James Chin, who's an expert in because he himself is a Sabahan, and me also not knowing a lot about the culture as well as the people there. So basically, I would declare ignorance on all those aspects. What I will respond to is simply by looking at the second-hand data or second-hand reports of what people are saying. Okay, and all of them are basically saying the same thing. They are saying that the call for Sabahan to emulate the GPS from Sarawak, right? To prefer local parties to that of the federal parties. It seems to be taking on a very strong note there. Okay. Now, the other thing that we need to also understand that in a democracy, you're going to have the idea of winning some and then losing the next time. That's quite normal. Okay. The other thing also that you need to understand is that there are local issues sometimes, and also the performance of the what do you call it, the candidates during their incumbency and things like that also may have a situation. I cannot provide any data about how they were doing. I would like to comment simply on a few things that is being reported. Okay. Now, in my own assessment, I look upon this possibly. Number one was the clarion call of Sabah for Sabahan, and I'll comment about whether that's appropriate or not. The other one is the possibility of the problem of the 40%. The 40% declaration of the court, of which Anwar said the government is not going to appeal, but everybody has read the AG or the Attorney General's letter. Even James Chin said, "Be careful, this thing is not over yet." I remember him saying that the AG is going to question the judgment. Then there's also how do you sort the thing out? You're not going to get the whole 40%, but what is the thing that you're going to be taking out? Because some of the development funds has already been given in that sense, like an advancement. So a lot of this may cause a concern for the Sabahan with regard to what they want to send a message across. So that is something that that might have made the election turn the way it was. the other aspect, perhaps the worry about the federal political parties getting more, racist, having playing on identity politics on that nature, and so all of this, perhaps the Sabahan people is thinking that it is better for them to rely solely on the Sabah for Sabahan, but I feel that they think that Abang Joe in GPS is getting a lot of things by consolidating power in terms of locality and having a better say. Because the theory before that was that, hey, you must have friends in the federal, then the thing will be smoother. But GPS was not like that. Okay, so but then they're getting more than ever before. So I think this is something very evident, and we have people like maybe Rafizi saying that it could have been better. I doubt it. Okay, I doubt anybody, okay, who would go there. Even the prime minister went there, and then he was, killed in the sense of politically murdered, huh? In that regard, because of the context of the situation, the 40% thing, the GPS example, all right, and the Sabah for Sabahan call. Those are factors that I think made what the result as is.
Okay. But let me just follow up on a particular issue here that seems to be an interest of many members of the public. Now, Pakatan Harapan have notably lost in the state election in Sabah, and one of its coalition is included, which is DAP. How do you think the political dynamics will play out at the federal level moving forward? Should this be a concern of Pakatan Harapan in the next general election? How do you think the dynamics will play out in the coming future?
Well, many people are saying that, hey, this is what they call in the Malay petanda, okay, some sort like a signal that something bad is going to happen at the federal level and peninsula, especially like the DAP losing so-called the Chinese votes and all that. But I am of the opinion that nothing will happen. Okay, I'm of the opinion nothing will happen simply because Perikatan Nasional lost almost all the seats, and they were the ones who went in for, I think, almost all the seats, right? And they won only one. And Pakatan Harapan actually did not go into many seats. If I'm not mistaken, there's only about maybe 30, half of it, because they are making a pact with GRS, right? Anwar Ibrahim came down not only to campaign for PH, but also for GRS, if that's what I understand. Okay, so Barisan Nasional also lost significantly to the point of having only 6 seats. And so this, as I said, were the factors of all the Sabah for Sabahan and the internal factors, and also certain things that were influenced. As I say, I would say that the attraction of the GPS being of local base and getting a lot and things like that is probably the most significant factor. So I do not think that any of the things that happened in Sabah would be reflected in the peninsula, like the DAP being in trouble. I don't think so. Even though we can hear people saying, well, the DAP is very quiet and all that. But what's your alternative? There in Sabah, you have your alternative. Whether they are corrupt politicians or not corrupt politicians, but they are yours, okay? And you are comfortable with that. No one is playing religious politics or extremism and things like that. So in Peninsula, it's a whole different ballgame. Okay, it's a whole different ballgame. So I don't see there's an apple to apple comparison. While some people say this is a wake up call, it's not. I didn't expect PH to win a lot anyway, but I also didn't know whether GRS would pull it off because of all the Albert Tay so-called whistleblowing and all that, and suddenly even some of the people saying, well, all politicians are corrupt as long as they bring some advancement, it's fine lah. I mean, one of my Sabahan podcaster, Kopitiam Council, Muhammad Hafiz, he said some of the on the ground people are talking like that. Even Johan Arifin wasn't concerned when I said, hey, what about all this corruption, or what's going to happen to GRS? No lah, this is all Peninsula punya playbook lah, Prof. Okay, so he just dismissed it just like that. Okay, and we know that Albert is a broker for some peninsular investors. Okay, and we don't know whether they're businessmen or politicians out to actually disrupt things. So no, I don't think it is something that is what do you call it, going to change what will happen in Malaysia. I'm not saying that Pakatan Harapan will be winning or anything like that. I'm saying that I don't see any of the issues brought up over in Sabah is going to reflect, because those are two wholly different things. There they're talking about infrastructure, water, things that we don't talk about that. Right? Yeah, we talk about going to heaven, okay, and how fast we can do that. All right, so that's the politics, and many non-Malays don't understand that. It's not that Malays are very overly concerned about it. It becomes like that, with the social media and all that. I've seen things being narrated in a manner that for me it's not important, but it is important to them. Okay, so you need to play that game whether you like it or not. So no, I don't think it will affect whatever it is will happen in GE 16. Maybe even the Sabahan will think, okay, now we're going to elect members of parliament, and we might do a bridge. We might put up some people that will bridge with the federal government in the parliamentary seats. But in the state seat, let's just be patriotically be ourselves.
So in the opening question, you mentioned you mentioned about Sabah for Sabahan. I would like to get your comment on that. But first, let me ask you about the cabinet in Sabah, members who are elected, appointed for members of the cabinet in Sabah. So young voters, Professor Tajuddin, in this election around, made a significant contribution to the recent state election in Sabah. So in Karambunai, for example, Dr. Ali Akbar from PAS, from the Malaysian Islamic Party, had witnessed 41% of new voters, all of whom were under the age of 30. And this may or may not have contributed to the victory of PAS for the first time in the history of East Malaysia. But the point that I'm trying to make, the participation of young voters is evident. Unfortunately, if we look at the newly appointed members of cabinet in Sabah, there are no youth representatives at all. Maybe there are one or two, but they are assistant ministers, as recently announced. The thing is, each and every one of its members is between the ages of 50 and 70. And most controversially is that some of these elected members are tainted with allegations of corruption. So my question to you is, did the Chief Minister of Sabah make the right call? What is your assessment of this? And do you see this as a problem both for Sabahan and outside of the context of Sabah?
So this is the thing that I'm trying to tell a lot of Malaysians, reading columnists, listening to podcasts by people outside. This is called politics. Okay, you need to understand this is called politics. And what is politics? Politics, number one, you can make friends with enemies, and you can make enemies of friends, whatever. Okay, whatever works. And same thing here. Number one, what he did for the first time was to appoint to the minister those people that from the different parties, so that they can actually be together. So whether these people can do the job or not, that's a number 4, number 5 question. The most important is that you have the tie. Similarly, in the tribal situation, you marry your daughter here, daughter there. These are the tribal thing. Whether sometimes the daughter say, I don't like this is old man. Yeah, but I need that alliance. Okay, so this is politics, Ras. Like it or not, This is what is meant by. Similarly, you'll find out when you are going to, work somewhere, and then you will know that doesn't necessarily mean efficiency. Efficiency means the best do the proper job. But then there's also politics. Okay, the manager's niece or the manager's nephew or all sorts of things need to be not to be part of. So here is not about compromise. Is the real thing, the politics. So those you said tainted with certain corruption, they have not been proven yet. So insofar as what it has to do is to take those people, because those people are the ones that command the influence with the party. Okay, and that is the name of the game. You don't elect someone, oh, Razsyarizzand Rindu, excellent person working, but has no influence. Okay, I remember a conversation I had with the marketing officer of my university, and there was a debate about using or calling two of the former students to actually be a kind of a model for marketing of the UCSI program. And then the marketing officer asked, should we get the one with the 4.0 grade or the one that has 100,000 followers? Okay, to be the model, to appear as a poster girl for the for the course. You see the question there. Okay, the one with the 4.0 or the one with the 100,000 followers, who's definitely not 4.0, probably 3.2. Okay, so you can see that politics is what works. Okay, is what works, and we can say, well, this is a very very sick place. No, I learned 25 years and said, yeah, whether you like it or not, you're going to have to work with people. Okay, and those people could be difficult or whatever, but they are the only ones who's willing to come sit at the table and call yourself a government. That's why Anwar and the changes comes very slow, because you have to work with these people, because it's the people who has all the vested interests and all this, and then people simply you know just go and say, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this, and you should do that. And then that's why I love it when Hajiji won. And then I saw all the appointment and I said, look, this is politics. Okay? You're telling Anwar is this, Anwar is that. Hajiji, macam mana? All right? So he's also having to work. Barisan Nasional is also part of the government, right? They were the enemies. They were the enemies. Sama juga dengan Pakatan Harapan having to work with Barisan Nasional and UMNO. Sama juga that there are people tainted with corruption. Sama juga dengan sini. So this is politics. Okay? So that's why I see there is something wrong with the rakyat now having the power of the digital media to comment and to do this. They don't understand politics. Okay, they understand what they want. Yes lah, I mean, it's like a child. I want this, I want that, but father only has this amount of money. I can't give everything. All right. So it's a childish for a lot of people. We're waiting for change. Change is not coming. This is not doing it. There's politics behind it. Okay, you need to understand that and to be mature. So with the young people, now is it wise to have young people at the headship like a minister when they have not gone through the politics as well as the culture of organization? This is not a company, all right, that you can fire left and right. This is a government. You can't fire people that much, all right? So you need to understand that, and would a nice young man like you, can you tahan all this politics and culture of that? I don't think so. Me, I'm okay. I let everything slide first. I'm already old. I can afford to be tense. But there's a wisdom there, because then there's the patience, and then there's a understanding of how to do things. Not to say the best. Who says that's the best? Marriage is not quote unquote the best, but that's what you get, and that's how you follow through. Okay, and that is I learned from that. Some people say, well, some people have accused me, you've lost your principle, Prof. In the olden days, you said, no, I've grown wiser. I say I've grown wiser. Okay. And so I'm not saying I'm not rooting for old people, but it's a fact. The Tajuddin of 10 years ago, the Tajuddin is now is totally different. Okay. Uh, I make more a careful statement and also better context statement. And also I can see through a lot of people who saying, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that, and things like that. Like one of the politicians in PKR mouthing himself, thinking that I wanted to write, can he do any better? No one can do. I dah tengok dah the situation. It's nothing. That's how it is. That's how it is. Macam tu.
Yeah.
Superman
So
also cannot
Professor,
do anything.
all right. So
Maybe Thanos can. That one okay lah.
it's good that you include some popular reference there, Prof Tajuddin. So speaking of past and present, you mentioned of how you were in the past and how you are now. You've obviously evolved. So I just want to follow up to give a follow-up question here. In previous years, you mentioned that you oppose on the idea that young people as early as the age of
Yeah,
18
to
should
vote.
not vote, should
Yeah,
not be involved,
yeah. I
should
did say
not
that.
be involved in politics.
Hmm.
Do you still stand by that statement? And why did you say that?
Oh yeah, I do stand by the statement simply because I know what these young people have learned in school. Basically, not much. Okay, and it's not their fault. They're not stupid. It's just our curriculum has expired. All right. I told them that you need to have more a different way of teaching and the content. For instance, like if you're going to have 18-year-old Ras, why isn't the history book changed to include history of all the party warisan, party DAP, party, all those parties must be there. Okay, kenapa? And then what is their ideology and things like that, and inviting them to speak in schools. Is there any? Tak ada pun. Okay, so then you go out and you're studying in college and university. I teach at university for 40 years. I know the content. The content is again industrial. Industrial meaning only about you going to work. Absolutely nothing about respect for others to build a nation. Absolutely nothing about which political party would carry you. Absolutely nothing about progressive idea of religion to support community growth, to support nation growth. Nothing. It's all about going to heaven and condemning everybody that's not your religion so that you can go to heaven. Something like that. Okay? How can these people, even those who are over 21, even I say that a lot of them need a course. And I did right. I said, all those, if I had my way, you want to vote, you have to attend a free course 1 week, like a marriage course, But the marriage course you have to pay, but this one is free. Makan free, all free, but you just have to attend it. And there we will talk about this party's ideologies like this one, that one. If you choose race, then what will happen? Probably if you choose this one, what might happen? Nobody teach that. Okay, I get people Melayu kita choose Melayu lah. Kita orang Islam, we cannot choose orang bukan Islam. This is against religion. Mufti pun tak cakap apa-apa. Oh, so even the over 21 also, I don't think they're qualified to vote. Okay, I'm sorry to say, because again, what education have you? So here I'm questioning democracy. Okay, questioning democracy. You're giving power to somebody who's not educated in the whole thing, and then you're saying that what they say and what they decide to be an issue is something that is secret. Okay lah, it's true in some sense, but then it's not true in many sense. Okay, so how do you do that? Some say so. Okay, then are you going to have an educated class only to maybe those who are having degree? Then you can vote. But then, what's the curriculum of the university? Again, there's a question there. So even with the over 21, we have problem. Even with those who are quote unquote educated until PhD. Also, I told you the story once, did I? about a lecturer with a PhD who called me and said, Prof, why are you so soft on the Indians? I said, what do you mean? You're talking, always defending people when Islam is saying something. He said, so what's wrong with that? He said, have you not seen what's happening at Batu Cave? Of course, I've never been to Batu Cave, believe it or not. Okay, there's no reason for me to go. I said, no, what's happening at Batu Cave? They built a big statue of the god. Okay. So I said, so what's wrong with that? Is it on your land? No, no. Then what's the problem? Problem is from my house, I can see it. So, well, isn't that an insult to Muslims? There was this proposal, I think it was Sabah, to build the Mazu statue, the Chinese goddess or something. All right. There was this proposal to build that so that you can attract the Chinese tourists. Right? And the mosque people, of course, rejected it and said this is not good. And because it's too close to the mosque. How far is the mosque? 2.5 kilometers away. 2.5 kilometers away. And then we have another incident of somebody building a private house of worship, a Hindu, close to a surau, not a mosque, surau, which is opposite the road, and saying that this is wrong. I said, what happened to Cheng Hun Teng Temple, Masjid Tengkera, all this in Malacca? Okay, je? Nothing happening there. Right? So what's the problem? I think in Sabah or Sarawak there is even a church and a mosque that shares the parking lot, if I'm not mistaken. Can. So these are the problems of democracy as I can see it now. And there is not enough education going around. And why is that nobody's doing anything or nobody's listening to Prof Tajuddin? The politicians like it that way, so that they can play with the issues, and then you can believe them in this simplistic manner.
Thank you so much, Prof Tajuddin. So let's go back to the sentiment of Sabah for Sabahan, as notably mentioned earlier. So you had recently, Professor Tajuddin, been appointed as a member of the National Unity Advisory Council. I'd like to talk a little bit about the sentiment of Sabah for Sabahan here, which was most prominent in the recent state political campaign and election. But for me, if I may share, the phrase Sabah for Sabahan can be quite divisive for me, okay? Because yes, I agree that the phrase was intended to amplify the voices of Sabahans and demand greater autonomy, just like in Sarawak. But to some extent, we must not forget that the sentiment itself was lost in translation. What I have seen on the ground, Professor Tajuddin, was that some members of the public had exploited the phrase Sabah for Sabahan to promote, for example, xenophobia and to instill fear of immigrants, associating them with political opposition. Parti Warisan or the Warisan Party is a good example of this, where they are generally accused of quote unquote migrant smuggling. Some people have said that, well, do not vote for the Warisan Party because if you do, we will see a surge of pendatang tanpa asing, PTI. Here, it indicates that some members of the public are weaponizing Sabah for Sabahan, the phrase Sabah for Sabahan, to bring down political opposition. So, Professor Tajuddin, as a member of the National Unity Advisory Council, what is your assessment of the way in which political campaigns were conducted in relation to the slogan Sabah for Sabahan? And would you agree with me that the phrase is only diverging us from national unity? And finally, I think I'd like to get your opinion on this is, how would you advise political leaders to improve the way political campaigns are conducted moving forward, both in Sabah as well as in Peninsula?
Okay, that's to me of all this interview, the most interesting question is this one. Okay, others are looking why PH laws, and I'm not interested in that. Okay, but this one is very, very interesting. Okay, the question here is that is it right or is it wrong for you to feel like that? Okay, and I had a good time thinking about it, and I said, first of all, if you say Sabah for Sabahan, like in Singapore, Singapore is for Chinese. You probably end up in jail, I think. Okay, So it will not be tolerated. Like in Peninsula, it says some politician, old politician saying Malaysia is for Malays first. Yeah, something like that, right? You have this idea that you have people encouraging this view. Malaysia is for Malays, and first, and things like that. And then you also have this sentiment of Johorian, Bangsa, Johor. Okay, if you've heard some of them saying because they were fed up with certain some extremism happening, like the laundry issue and all that, and the Sultan didn't like it, and again they were saying that Bangsa Johor, we are okay, we are very moderate in that sense, like Sabah, I think. Okay, so if you can say Bangsa Johor, you can also say Bangsa Sabah, betul tak? All right. So what's the problem is that they're not playing racial sentiment, they're not playing religious sentiment, like Islam first or Muslim first or Malay first. Like one politician say, I am Malay first. Okay, tak ada siapa tangkap dia, you know. So jadi so if some people are very unhappy, like in the peninsula, they are not happy with the Sabah for Sabahan rhetoric. But then, you know, you allow things like this Malay first idea or Islam first idea to actually be part of the normal day-to-day thing, of which all of this Malay first or Islam first or Sabah first, if it is said in countries like Singapore, definitely they will not allow it. Okay, so in our country, if you go and catch people saying Malaysia Malay first, then your political party will lose. Okay, because people like Akmal and Tajuddin Abdul Rahman, now Dr. Mahathir, they are the ones you know, revving up all this sentiment. Okay, so it's part and parcel of the day-to-day affair, and that is what we call the normalization of identity politics in that manner. But here, I would like to say that is it wrong for you to say, well, Sabah for Sabahan? For me, if they're not playing racial or religious sentiment, then there's nothing wrong with it, actually. Now, of course, some people will say, we must think Malaysia and all that. Okay, now there is a difference here, Ras, between me and other people. Some people believe Malaysia must be, there may be three kinds. One, dominated by Malayness. Okay, so Sabah must be a bit more Malay. Okay, jadi macam tu. So the values, the dasar kebudayaan, kebangsaan, all the things must be Malay. Now with Islam coming up, must be very Islamic. Okay, so all this half-naked Dayak dancing, not really very proper. So as proof, University Technology Malaysia had done a guideline, no cultural performance of mixed gender, no cultural performance of immodest dressing. Okay, so you can see that there is one kind of people who believe that Malaysia must be Malay first, right? But for me, Malaysia means your ethnic group first. Okay, meaning that in order to identify with anything larger than yourself, you need to know who you are first, betul tak, Ras? You need to know where you come from, you need to know your own roots, you need to know. No means no, not listen to people. People say you are Muslim, mesti sembahyang 5 kali. No, you find out yourself. Now that is so after that, then you can embrace a larger family, and then also much larger one like Islam or globalization of cultures. If you do not want some religious thing, so you need that. And I always coin the word one many Malaysia. So because everybody was saying one Malaysia, what do you mean by one Malaysia? Satu saja ke budaya? Satu saja ke nilai? No, nilai-nilai yang baik. We can work with it. Okay, so I'm different. I'm allowing because I come from the arts, and also a training of architecture that appreciate heritage and honors them. Not like some people who say, no, this one not Islamic. They use Dewa, Devi, and all this Khurafat, whatever, and so they would allow things like that. Okay, so for me, it's fine for you to have the sentiment of Sabah for Sabahan, as long as it's not racist. Okay, and the idea of nation building. Okay, nation building means then you are into a larger sense where you know the Malays who they are, their religion, the Islam. And then the other counterpart, does the Malay know the Sabahan? Itu satu hal. They never studied, I never studied a lot about Sabah. That's why I say I'm ignorant of Sabah. Okay, when the Borneo Post invited me to column, my first question, what should I write about Sabah? I don't know anything about it. So I just write what you want to write. Okay, then I went general with a lot of motivational thing, more human things and all that. Okay, so because I really literally do not know. You ask me 3 cities pun I cannot tell you. Okay, so that's how ignorant I am. And this was the product of the history book, geography book, which we never really cover. Of course, there's a chapter on Sabah Sarawak, but not really dealt with in a good manner in the examinations, and people don't really care whether you know or not. So that is how, if Sabah want to be for Sabahan, good, but then they need to learn about being, understanding about the Malays and the Islam and all that. We need to have that. But if Sabah think, no, we do not need to know at all. There's a problem there. Okay, but here in Peninsula, this is a real problem because the Malays think they only need to know Malays. Other ni kita tak perlu sangat lah. We do not need to appreciate. This is why a lot of things like Bak Kut Teh issue, a lot of things like certain cultural things are becoming Islamic punya discussion. Why? Oh, Islam do not allow dressing. Itu you looking from that. You kena tengok art ni lain and heritage ni lain. Do you think someone who wants to spread Islam goes into the jungle and find naked people, and then first thing he's going to say, look, all of you are condemned to hell. You're all naked. It's all about your how you relate to nature, how you relate to this invisible thing called God, and then how you have your value system, and slowly coming in and things like that, accepting whatever that is there, whatever values that is presently, and then slowly moving and things like that. Islam doesn't come in, no, you must dress yourself like this, do. It's not like that. I have some of my friends became Muslim. They say prayers in English. Okay, they say prayer because their tongue is not made for Arabic yet. Okay, so the Imam said, it's okay, just pray, just learn Bismillah, and that's it about it. And it's very easy to just learn Bismillah. Okay, but then take a while to go and recite the Al-Fatihah and all those other verses. It's going to take a while. So you can be a Muslim, and if you die praying in English, God is not going to punish you for that. Okay, so jadi itu yang menjadi masalah. So I see no problem with that, unless there is this idea that we don't need the Peninsula people, the Malays and all that. We don't need Prof Tajuddin, we don't need all these other people. So you and I, we are a good example. I'm from here in Peninsula, and you are from there, and we need each other. You're a young person, I'm an older one. I need to know what you are concerned. I can provide some feedback or reflection. I don't say answers on issues that you want to know. And you take those things and think for yourself, not as answers, but also as some information that you need to, what do you call it, analyze and balance.
Okay. Thanks, Professor Tajuddin. So before we finish, maybe I should ask you just one final question. So this concerns the dominance of aging politicians, both within the state and also in the national context. What are your views on the following, Prof. Tajuddin? Number one, politicians above the age of 60 should not be allowed to contest in the election. So in this case, an age limit must be imposed, similar to the mandatory retirement age in Malaysia. Would you agree with this? And second, would you advocate for a two-term limit for a Malaysian Prime Minister? What are your comments on this?
Well, first of all, if you put that limit, then we probably would be discussing. I'm 63 years old. Okay, so the consensus there is that after 60, you are not worth very much. Okay, now the 63-year-old Prof Tajuddin and the 53-year-old Prof Tajuddin, I told you just now, totally different person. Okay, so we have the maturity of age and the wisdom that comes with it, and this is something I think is important. All right. So to put a limit to age, I think a lot of things shouldn't have any limits. Even the term of the presidency, some places, of course, it works. Like in the United States, they're very comfortable with the idea of a two-term president. Seems to work very well. And what works at one place may not work at other places. For instance, like if you become the prime minister, your first term is just like Anwar trying to make sure that the Malays don't feel that you are a threat. Okay. And then after the second term, then only you try to do some, because you have the trust of the Malays, then you move things a little bit. Mahathir was different because he controlled everything at that time. Okay, the even the police, the judiciary, everybody's afraid of him. Okay, so he can just say something and then it'll just become, but not in this present context. Okay, you need one term and then another term, maybe a third term in order to actually do something. So I would not agree to putting a term limit to any presidency. If you have your own what they call it political party or whatever, and you have what we call the non-written rules or the non-written things like you know, maybe you should give way to the younger person or something like that, right? Yeah. So not everything must be made into rules. I'm not here to suggest because I want Anwar Ibrahim to have another term, things like that. But you can ask James Chin if you listen to some who say, he says the Anwar that you see now is not the real Anwar. He said, why? Because he didn't get two-third majority. He's part of another big coalition partner, which is once his enemies. All of them were his enemies. Barisan Nasional was his enemy. The GPS was his enemy. GRS was his enemy. So everybody is the enemy. So you want to see the real Anwar, you give him his party Pakatan Harapan full. But the reality is that in GE16, Pakatan Harapan will depend on Barisan Nasional punya vote. Barisan Nasional punya vote also depend on Pakatan Harapan. Okay, if Barisan Nasional goes off on its own solo, they will be killed. Okay, PN will win. If PH goes solo, they will be killed. Okay, so the best solution is for them to actually work together. And after that term, then maybe then if Barisan Nasional feel that they are strong enough, then they might go off on their own. So that is something. But the interesting thing is what's going to happen in Malacca and in Johor, because it's fully Barisan Nasional there in both places. Pakatan Harapan is the opposition in Johor. There's no opposition, I think, I'm not sure if there's any opposition in Malacca. Okay, so these are the things. But in Perak, they're working together. So I told you, it's politics. Okay, it's politics. So I'm not surprised if there will be clashes between Pakatan Harapan and Barisan Nasional if Barisan Nasional does not give some of the seats to, because they already won. But that was not a fair time. I remember when Zahid called the election very strategic during the pandemic. So not many people are coming home and they have their own grassroots, and so they came up a landslide victory. Okay, that was a masterstroke of Zahid Hamidi. And to blame them for not giving up because they have all their seats and they want it, well, they have a point there. And Akmal said not giving anything to any of the Pakatan Harapan. So that's politics. Your friend here, but your enemies there. Normal day in Malaysia. Okay, no, normal day in Malaysia. Right. So we say that Malaysia has many colors. Okay, many colors, many tastes, many colors, And sometimes as you grow older, you see that there's other colors, like your family, different people, different responsibilities. Okay, so you also have different opportunities, different talent, different skills. Instead of thinking that you should have this, you should have a term limit, you should have this, everything should, must have, then that's not really a human thing to do. So it's more difficult to look at the diversity and work with the diversity, and that's very difficult, of course. But that is the best thing about what humanity is. Unless you say no, standardize this, like the factory or a robot, and then you get the graduates like that, who only can think about religion in one way and cannot even incorporate other things. Okay, because the lesson is standardized. Okay, from sekolah rendah, menengah to the university is all standardized and only on one authority, no other authority. Okay, so jadi don't listen to Prof Tajuddin interpretation of Islam because he is not part of the authority. Okay, so how are you going to interpret architecture? Whether you want to have a minaret or not? The ustad will say, of course lah. Tajuddin say you don't need. If you have a minaret, even it's a sin because it's a waste of money. Okay, so where are you going to get that? All right, this different kinds of thinking that has a certain basis to it. So that's where I think the celebration of number one, understanding what politics actually is. Politics is not your regular idea of what should be. Politics is what could be, what you can work with. And people say, oh, then that's different. No, it's not different than having a family. And having a family, what you have and what you can work with, your health, your money, your children, your talent, your skill, your biases, your all this intelligence and things like that. All of this needs to be harnessed in order to move forward. But that's life.
Prof Tajuddin, before we finish, just one final question, I promise. Speaking of diversity, how do you then address the dominance of aging politicians? Because this is basically the concern of many youngsters in Malaysia. They're saying, yes, we want to be involved in politics, but it seems that our voice are not represented. We do not get a spot in the political arena just because of our age. How then do we diversify the political landscape where old and young can be both represented equally?
First of all, name me those voices. Who are they? If you're referring to those people who's putting up placards, I listen to them and I know it's useless because they don't have any basis of research. Look at Fahmi Reza talking about democracy. What's he talking about? Okay, where is the wisdom behind the idea of democracy? You can't just speak from the theory that you watch from YouTube or maybe read in from one book. Okay, so if you want a young person like Ras, what do you have? Okay, show me a YouTube of some 30, 35-year-old who talk about economy, who talks about nation buildings that has a basis. Okay, that has some sort of philosophical basis or spiritual basis or economic basis, and phrase it within the culture of the people and the politics of the institution. Because you have two things, you may have your reading and your theory, but then you also have the culture of people. Okay, their work culture, their social culture, their religious culture, their whatever it is. Then over that layer, you also have the political context of what's happening, like what in Sabah is. Okay, whether it's for the better of Sabah, that Sabah is controlled by local politicians, not necessarily, right? Okay, because we know there are some very, very extremely rich Sabahan politicians, right? In comparison to, okay, so so why is it that this money can make them rich and not provide this infrastructure of water? What happened? Okay. Right? So show me that the federal government didn't give enough to put up this water infrastructure. Even sampai university pun tak ada water. What kind of nonsense is this? Saya pun terkejut. University tak ada water, kampung tak ada water tu satu hal lah. But university tak ada water. budak tamat. Oh, I kata, I don't know. I don't want to say anything because I say I don't know anything about Sabah. But university tak ada water, so who's to be at fault there? Water is controlled by the, and then they caught that guy, the water punya person with millions and millions of corruption, if I'm not mistaken, the civil servant, dekat situ kan. So jadi Sabah for Sabahan, fine, no problem, but don't think that the problems will go away. Jadi saya tak. So to answer yourself, it's not about age, Ras. What do you offer? Look at Muda, MUDA. It means Malayan United something democracy, something, right? It's not, it doesn't mean young. Okay? It doesn't mean young. And they don't even have old people like me to be part of Muda. Okay? Well, because they have to have the young. Then I watch, where is their program? What is their idea? And then they just go and take pot shots at very simple issues here and there. That's about it. So siapa nak bagi mereka ni leadership? Okay, unlike Sadiq, Sadiq was a real leader. He had given opinions. I am very satisfied with his opinion about nation building in terms of not having any preference for race or religion, because there was an issue attacking his timbalan was Stephen Sim, who is now the minister, my friend, about him lecturing in the church where I was also lecturing in that same church. Okay, so he said, no, this is okay, and things like that. So name me these young people, come out in front, put up your ideas and proposal, but have this layer. What you are having now with me is very good. You are putting out all the questions that other people are talking about, your young people talking about, but you have the benefit of some of my experience and point of view and reflection for you to actually think about. I'm not saying that you should take whatever I say, but this is how I always say that I don't teach people. I just share my perspective, knowledge, and ideas. That's why I'm not concerned about reading comments in my YouTube. I don't care. This is my ideas. Take it or leave it. It's nothing to me. All right. I'm just the carrier of the message. I don't have a political party to win. Okay, win or lose, there's no such concept. I'm Prof Tajuddin, whether you like me. I'm still Prof Tajuddin, whether you don't like me. Okay, so that is the situation. So let's see what the young people have first, and then we can see. Lastly, we'll say, look at Imam Dani. I don't know who he is, but the thing that I saw and how he went all the way, to meet all the taxi drivers, and then he has his team, he has his ideas, and his ideas of giving free care, what is it called, child care. That is incredible. I'm helping my daughter 700 ringgit a month to take care of the children. I mean, that is a very, so I said, then somebody asked, how are you going to pay for it? Well, we increase this tax here, tax there, up there, and he can pay. It's only $5 billion US. He calculated it already. So don't shout, young people, to me, Ras. Okay, don't shout like that. Okay, shout what is the program and how you're going to implement it within the cultural and political context that we have. Then no one is going to stop you to be a young minister. Tak ada masalah. Or even if nobody notices you, they put out a book and then put out a podcast which is very well structured, rational. Don't burn any effigies. Okay, so janganlah buat kerja macam tu. Okay? Oh, we want to be noticed. Buka baju semua pun people will notice you. Okay, so jadi I really don't respect anything of what I have seen from the so-called student activism. You ask me to name a young person, either I would name you, maybe Vinod, okay, Rajendran and Muhammad Hafizul. These people, these young people, and recently I had a forum with them. I introduced them as young politicians because they don't belong to any political party. Victor Tan, Vinod Rajendran, and Muhammad Hafizul. But the way they think about society and the thing that make them do the podcast, even though they don't get a lot of money from it, that is politician. Okay, so the politics of the old people, influence there, okay, it's strong there. But the politics of now is the ideas, and then the digital media, and then the discourses and the forums that must come, not in a manner of populism, but in a manner of seriousness. Okay, and then you are actually a politician. Okay, jadi macam tu. So don't have to be any political party yet. People will come and seek for you. Okay? If you are that good. All right.
All right. So thank you so much, Professor Tajuddin, for inviting me in this special edition to talk about post-Sabah election. To those who are watching, thank you very much. Please leave a like and comment. Professor Tajuddin, maybe you have any final thoughts?
Okay, just to say thank you again for indulging me in doing this. Actually, from the question that you asked, I've already thought of a few articles, and I never really thought I was going to write it. But when you said about the young, that was the first time I'm answering this, or responding to it. Then that's a good title. It's not about the age, it's about what you have and how you present it and how you put forward. So thanks very much. Have a lot, and also about the Sabahan. I'll be writing about all these things about what we are talking about in a more different way and a detailed manner. Thank you very much, Ras. I appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.